Welcome to today's webinar on optimizing your private practice. My name is Sarah Achleithner, nutrition professional, Nutrium's regional manager for North America, and your host for this event. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you find this information helpful and that you can use the strategies outlined here to take your private practice to the next level. Lesli Bitel and Katie Dodd are two well-known dietitians and business entrepreneurs who will be sharing their secrets on how to build a successful virtual nutrition practice. While it may seem daunting to have a thriving nutrition business, this will actually allow you to boost your revenue, maximize search results, and increase future work opportunities. If you want to grow your business, chances are that you're looking for tried and true strategies, which is why seeking guidance from other professionals is highly recommended. Lesli and Katie can help you create a rock solid plan for optimizing your virtual practice, which includes action items such as attracting clients, creating multiple streams of income, improving client care, and overcoming obstacles. While it's not easy and it requires a lot of hard work, it's worth it in the end if you're willing to put your time and energy in the right places. In this webinar, we will discuss topics such as how to create multiple streams of income, strategies that are necessary for optimizing a virtual practice, and how to start a side hustle. But before we hop into today's main event, let's take a minute to talk about the host of today's webinar. Nutrium is an all-in-one nutrition software solution that is ideal for dietitians in private practice. And thanks to its many features, you can spend less time behind the scenes and more time doing what you love, which is helping clients. Since everyone wants to take their private practice to the next level, Nutrium offers many features to help you on this journey. From auto-generated meal plans and personalized landing pages to a messaging system and telehealth capabilities, you can gain more clients, streamline your practice, and save money while doing so. In addition to these features, Nutrium provides other important services needed for a successful nutrition business, such as nutrition analysis, a mobile app, food journals, integrated payments, an SEO website landing page that features your own blogs, recipes, and scheduler, flexible pricing plans, and so much more. If you're interested in trying out this software for yourself, go to app.nutrium.io/redeem and enter in the code Nutrium25 for a 14-day free trial and 25% off your first purchase. You can also do this by going to your subscription page and adding in the code Nutrium25. Try it out today to see how you can take your private practice to the next level. After this webinar, you should be able to do the following: identify strategies that all successful online nutrition practices must take to improve client care and maximize profits, define the fastest ways to attract clients in today's crowded digital world, implement a systematic approach to creating multiple streams of revenue, define a top business strategy for building an online private practice, define different and unique side hustle ideas, identify solutions to overcome obstacles that prevent nutrition professionals from getting started, and identify the 3 steps to starting a dietitian side hustle. We will be doing a Q&A at the end, so please submit your questions throughout the session. As a reminder, this webinar offers 2 CEUs, and instructions on how to receive these credits are at the end of this webinar. Up first is dietitian Lesli Bitel. She is a business strategist, mentor, and speaker. She specializes in delivering leading edge business and marketing strategies designed to build profitable online health and wellness practices. Lesli will be discussing the secret for how to become a sought after expert with an abundance of ideal clients. So let's have her take it away. Lesli? Lesli.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for your patience there. I had a little technical glitch in terms of unmuting. So, all right. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so very much, Sarah, for the invitation, and a big thank you to Nutrium as well. Very happy to be here with everyone. So I do want to give each of you a nice warm welcome. As Sarah said, I am a business coach and mentor for registered dietitian nutritionists, and I've been doing this work for years now, having started as a dietitian myself, and honestly experiencing many of the same challenges that most likely you are facing, I'm guessing. And all of this culminates from, you know, trying and, you know, utilizing all kinds of strategies in an effort to grow your profitable online practice. So in terms of today's marketplace, so let's have some straight talk, all right? In this day and age, being 2021, there is a lot of noise in the market. There's a lot of clutter in the market, especially in this busy online space. And there are lots of people claiming to be experts, throwing information around, making really a lot of promises that they can't and don't keep. So nowadays, it's so imperative to raise yourself above this cacophony of noise in order to find and engage your ideal client. And the thing I want you to understand is your ideal clients are out there and they desperately need your help. What I'm going to be talking about today is a multitude of areas, where to find them, how to set yourself up for success in this noisy online space, and how, more than anything, how it's truly a relationship game. Okay, so that is one of the big takeaways for today. Every single strategy you are going to hear today ultimately rests on knowing how to create relationships with your target audience. And honestly, I feel like that's great. You guys are in such a good position to do this as dietitians and nutrition professionals. You are expert at that. So you're definitely well poised to be able to do this. So you're going to hear a little bit more about my story in a while, but I'm going to share just a quick few highlights in terms of, you know, my history. But as a registered dietitian myself, I have made it my life's work at this point to teach other nutrition professionals these critical business tools so that you can develop a prosperous practice, so that you can help more people, really help them efficiently, effectively reduce the attrition rates. And you can do so in a model that allows you the freedom and flexibility to really live your best life. So because the practitioners that are able to impact the most lives are not only great practitioners, but they also have the right business model in place that allows them the ability to practice their craft in a way that's efficacious for their clients and also works for them and really helps them to have a lifestyle, you know, to be able to do all those things that are important. So we want to build around that, the right lifestyle. Okay, so next slide. I know that you can have it all right? So I do want to give you a really truthful word of encouragement, a super successful online practice serving the right clients that are highly committed and willing to invest in themselves to improve their health. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. So in this webinar, in my portion, I'm going to show you how to make the ultimate shift from stressing out and feeling uncertain about the steps to take to really having a clear roadmap to building your thriving nutrition practice. So how does that sound, everybody? Sound good? All right. So specifically, I'm just going to go through the bullet points that I'm going to cover in my portion quickly. So first, we're going to talk about the 5 foundational steps that I believe all successful practices must take to improve client care and maximize their profits. And next, we'll talk about the fastest ways to access and attract awesome clients in today's really very crowded digital marketing world. We will talk about I'm going to share with you a systematic approach for creating multiple revenue streams for your online practice so that you can generate more leverage and passive income. We'll also talk about the top business strategy for building your online practice. And the interesting thing is it's probably not what you think. So look forward to that. We'll talk about how to design a sales funnel so that your prospects are effortlessly guided from finding you to buying from you. All right, so a little overview in terms of my story. For those of you that don't know me, I'm just going to share a little bit about my story and how I ended up where I am today with a full-time coaching and mentoring practice for my fellow health professionals, specifically dietitians. So as Sarah mentioned, I am a registered dietitian. I happen to have degrees in corporate wellness, and I also have an MBA in global business and in entrepreneurship. So I happen to have experience on both the clinical and the business side in terms of marketing and sales, all within the medical industry. But the thing I really want to share with you is, before I hung my private practice shingle, I had amassed really some pretty wonderful clinical experience. I did my post-grad internship at Cook County. I got a lot of incredible experience working in the burn unit there. I worked at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, which is really considered one of the premier hospitals in the state of Illinois. I specialize in oncology. I did spinal cord injury, surgery, and I also got some great experience working in corporate wellness at companies such as the American Heart Association and Wrigley Corporation. I spent 13 years working in sales and marketing as an executive within the pharmaceutical industry. And as I mentioned, later did my MBA. So I share this with you because when I started my practice, really despite having a lot of experience and quite a bit of training, even though I found myself, you can probably relate, really struggling with that sense of overwhelm, all of, trying to figure out what strategies to implement, trying to, be consistent, trying to create, structure in my workday, and really just like trying a whole bunch of things. And the bottom line is that, despite my efforts and despite my training, I was struggling. I was really struggling to make a good living in private practice at that time. And so eventually I kind of hit a crossroad where I knew in no uncertain terms that I had to make a decision. And I remember this moment really well. I had to decide, there were some things going on. Either I was going to do whatever it took to go full in to building this private practice, or I needed to hang it up and get a job. Okay. So I was at that crossroads. Thankfully, I grabbed a lifeline and I started working with some really awesome mentors. And they taught me the art of client enrollment and other business and marketing skills that are really specifically, very specific to building an online nutrition practice. And honestly, I just want to share everything changed from that point on. I learned how to confidently and authentically enroll clients into high-end packages and programs, really designed to help them successfully achieve their health goals. I completely got rid of those one-off sessions, believe it or not. And I was able to work within the cash pay package model, being able to enroll longer term clients into, minimum of 3-month type of programs. I was able to, really serve my clients at a much deeper level. And really the best part of all of this was getting to see the excitement and gratitude on my clients' faces for the life-changing results that they're experiencing with my help. So it really turned around. And I share this with you because I believe this so every fiber in my body knows that if I can do it, you can too. You guys just need the right strategies. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. All right. So there is an awful lot to consider when building a private practice, that's for sure. So what I'm going to do is I've organized this talk into really 5 overarching steps in sequential order that I believe must be taken to set the foundation for your business to succeed. All right. So Number one, we have to create a strategic foundation for your practice. All right. Super important. Many people try to skip this step, right? They skip the strategy and they just go right to building a website and getting business cards. I don't want you to do that. And even if you've already done that, that's fine. Let's just take a little step back and really look at the underlying strategic foundation. Because the reality is the build it and they will come philosophy is a concept that, well, let's just say it worked okay in Hollywood, right? But not so much when it comes to building your private practice. So what I wanted to share with you now are a couple of preliminary decisions that are going to really help position your business, your practice, and really help you create the foundation. You want that strong foundation for your practice. So all successful entrepreneurs can succinctly answer these two critical questions during the strategy building phase of developing their platform. And that first question is, what is the specific need that people have that you can fulfill? So you must be positioned in the marketplace as someone that's able to solve urgent problems that your audience is experiencing, and you need to be able to articulate what those are. All right. So you want to put yourself into the shoes of your target market and really try to imagine, their worldview, right? What are the most urgent problems from their perspective? And so I'm going to give you a quick example. So, like, as dietitians, we might think, just as an example, maybe we think that the most urgent problem for our client is an elevated hemoglobin A1C, just as an example. The reality is that from their perspective, they are probably terribly frustrated with their weight. They feel like they're trying really hard, but nothing seems to be working for them. They want to avoid taking medication, or maybe they're on a medication and it's not working, or they've got side effects that they don't want to deal with. Probably they're overwhelmed and confused with all this conflicting information on the internet, and it's resulting in them feeling paralyzed to take action. So the bottom line is, we do want to try to be highly specific, and we want to really be able to answer this question: what is the specific need that people have that you can solve, really from the client perspective? Okay, so that is super important. Now, the second question that I want you to try to answer in terms of, creating the strong foundation is, what is your promise to your audience? What is your overarching promise? Okay. Note, this is not a guarantee, right? You're not, guaranteeing every single person's going to get the exact same results, but you do need to be able to articulate the transformations and outcomes that are likely to occur as a result of working with your clients. Okay. So honestly, this answers the question of, essentially, why does your business exist in the first place? Why does it exist? So, for example, are you in business to help people to overcome or reduce maybe their autoimmune symptoms or triggers so that they can live a full and more vibrant life? Maybe that's your overarching theme or promise. Maybe you help children with food aversions to increase the number of acceptable foods that they'll eat so they can fit in with their friends and enjoy social events like other kids. Or maybe you're someone that helps women who are struggling with yo-yo dieting and they're also struggling with food cravings, trying to manage that. And really, maybe what you do is to help these women essentially find peace with food so they can actually enjoy eating again, and they're able to achieve a healthy weight without rigid diets. So whatever it is, you need to be able to articulate this throughout all of your marketing. All right, so now let's go to the second big step. So the second step is to develop your online practice specialization so that the right people can find you. All right. So we need for you to really get clear on who it is you want to serve. Now, niching allows you, I know you guys know about niching, and I will say, depending on where you are in your process, I know each of you are probably in a different place, right? Some of you may be crystal clear on your target audience and your niche. Others of you maybe not so much, and that's fine. Wherever you are, I believe is absolutely fine. You are probably very familiar with the idea of niching down. And if I'll tell you, if you're like I was, I found this very difficult because I was someone that loved everybody. I wanted to help everybody, right? And the thing I want to clarify with you is you can actually help whoever you want. Niching down is a marketing strategy. Okay. It does not mean that you can't help people outside of your niche. So just want to clarify that. That's a common question that I get. Um, and so it really is a marketing strategy. And it's so very important because essentially what you want to do, you want to position yourself in the marketplace. And guys, let me reiterate, it is a noisy, noisy online world. Seriously, in the online space, you must be crystal clear on who it is you serve. And it could be somewhat of a wide niche, but you do need to describe who it is that is your ideal client market, right? So I really want to encourage you to try to nail this down. There's lots of benefits. I've got some of them listed on this slide, but really suffice it to say that you want to be the go-to expert. You really want to position yourself as the go-to expert. And I will say, especially if you're dipping your toe into Instagram, my rule of thumb, one account per niche, okay? You can get away with a little, I would say a little broader, maybe even a couple of niches perhaps on your website. You know, that's possible. It's not ideal, but I do want to say it's possible. But if you're on social media, I really do want to emphasize one account per niche, because this is going to help position you as the go-to expert. And the other thing that I want to share with you is you do later have an opportunity to expand. So let me explain just a little bit what I mean by that. Once you get traction in terms of, you know, your specific area, your chosen niche, you can really expand your business in a couple of different ways. You can dig deeper, right? So like, let's say you specialize in helping people with IBS, just as an example. So, and you're getting traction. So you have a couple options in terms of growth. Number one, you can drill deeper within the same audience, right? You can expand the services that you're offering specifically within the IBS market, or you can basically offer similar services and expand your niche. So let's say you decide, you know what, I want to expand. I want to go from IBS and I want to add maybe IBD, right? So that's how I want you to look at it. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for growth later. All right, so now I'm going to share with you what I call the 4-step niche litmus test. And what this is a really, really helpful, this is really the definition of what I would say is an awesome niche. Okay, so I would call this almost like your low-hanging fruit in terms of how, you know, the market that you want to really target in all of your efforts. So here's the criteria. They must have a significant problem that you can solve, right? That is criteria number one. I would say pick something that you feel pretty confident that you can help people solve. Number two, do they know they have the problem and are they motivated to solve it? This is really important because your ideal client, it is considered an urgent problem and they are motivated to solve it, okay? It's urgent, they want it solved. In fact, in most cases, your ideal client is looking for help now. That's your ideal client. All right, does this market have a history of investing to get help for this problem? If that is true, if that is the case, if they have a history of investing, this is actually a good sign. They're putting, you know, some some of the resources behind solving this urgent problem, and most likely they're going to continue to do so. And then number 4, does this market congregate? They have to be findable, right? In order for us to reach them, we need to be able to identify where are they hanging out. All right, so let's go to number 3. Number 3 is we need to map your magnetic client attracting message. And I will say, I know messaging maybe isn't the most exciting part, but honestly, I've seen this over and over again. I've been doing this work for a really long time, working specifically with dietitians, and messaging can change everything. And I can't even tell you the amazing success stories that I've heard just from doing this one thing. So what I want to do is give you a few tips on how you can shift your messaging so that it's more effective. All right, so the best way in my opinion, to exercise your marketing muscle, so to speak, is really to position yourself with clarity. And I want you to be able to describe who it is that you work with, i.e., what kind of clients are they? What kind of patients are they? The problems that you help them solve, and the amazing transformations that you help your clients to achieve. I can almost promise you, there's some things I can't promise, but I can virtually promise that this one tip will absolutely save you so much. It'll save you money, effort, it'll get you clients. It's really pretty amazing. It'll help you to create really compelling copy for your website. It'll give you focus for your blogs. It's definitely going to help you on social media if you're dipping your toe into marketing there. So you're going to want to use this format in all of your marketing. And the thing I want you to remember is that people buy transformations, not your process or protocol. They really don't care so much about how you're going to get them better. I mean, they care a little bit, but really what catches their attention much faster and what really inspires them to take action to working with you is if you show them that you understand their challenges, what they're going through, their issues, and that you have a solution that actually can help them achieve their desired result. And that is really the crux of good messaging. All right, so let's go to number 4. Now we come to creating your services. All right, so we want to really create irresistible programs and products that are designed to solve your clients' most urgent struggles and challenges. Now, I'm going to share a schematic with you that I think will help drive home this point. So you want to, again, design your programs to solve a specific problem. And this is the green circle, right? That's your client's current reality. I like to just call that point A. So your services, every time you create a service, I want you to think of it in this way. Does this service help move my client from point A, which is their current reality, to point B, which is their desired transformation, right? It's their desired future. And I think it's super helpful if you can imagine your program, your service, whatever it is you're doing with clients, as literally the bridge that bridges the gap from point A to point B. All right. Now this brings us to this is where the profit pyramid comes in. All right. So I want to share with you this schematic that I think is going to be helpful in helping you to visualize the different types of services that you can offer in your business. And so this is called the profit pyramid. It represents the different types of services that you can create in your business, going from the bottom, which is free, all the way to the top of the pyramid, which is your VIP one-on-one type of programs and packages. And note, as you go from top to bottom of this pyramid, right, the price goes from high at the top all the way downward to free as you get to the very bottom. And just as an FYI, a good rule of thumb is the higher the amount of access that the client has to you, generally the higher the price point, generally speaking. All right. So, all right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Specifically, what I want to do in the next slide is give you, I want to talk about like how you can actually create these different services inside of your business. And I will say, I believe it's really important to first focus on the top of that pyramid. All right. So we really want to focus our efforts because there's only so much time in a day. And I'm a big believer in focusing on one thing before you move on to the next thing. And so my recommendation is that we start at the tippy top of that profit pyramid with your one-to-one, kind of your platinum level, VIP level services. So this is a slide that my intention is to talk through these service delivery options in a little bit more depth. Again, starting at the top of your profit pyramid, which again is your highest end program, and it's typically delivered in the one-to-one setting. So, all right, so let's take a look at this slide. Now, it may be a rhetorical question, admittedly, but if you are struggling with your health, you're really struggling and you're at wit's end, which option would you pick? Would you pick option A, which is basically sessions kind of as needed, or given the choice, would you pick option B, right? With all of these amazing different elements that are included in your program, right? In terms of helping you to overcome your issues and achieve your goals. Well, most likely you're going to pick option B. And the thing I want to drive home here is that this is really essentially a comparison of the hours for dollars type of model, i.e. the a la carte sessions on the left, which is option A, versus option B, which is my recommended business model. And basically, this is like bundling different services that you do in your practice into a very comprehensive program or package. And the thing I will share with you is it is definitely option B. I hear this from my clients all the time when they make the transition into offering programs and packages. Their clients get very excited. They're very excited about it. And there are so many benefits. I would say probably the biggest benefit in terms of the client is it feels very supportive, kind of like, oh my gosh, you've not left a stone unturned here. It feels super comprehensive and supportive. And the client is super focused on achieving the desired result in this model. All right, so highly recommend the program and package model. Let's go down that profit pyramid. And now let's talk a little bit about how you can, it's that middle section of the profit pyramid, if you recall, where it's the mid-level and low-cost programs and services. And these are typically, honestly, they're often online courses, group programs, and even membership types of programs. And the thing that I really like about these types of services is that they allow you to effectively leverage your time and reach more clients. And you're able to serve folks that maybe you would not otherwise be able to reach because maybe, they had some financial constraints. And being able to offer these mid to low level products and programs really can greatly expand your reach. And of course, from a business perspective, they can be incredible in terms of increasing, being able to leverage your, the revenue that you're generating inside of your business. So I want to just briefly go over a few tips that I have. Hopefully this will help you to better conceptualize the process of moving into leveraged offers. Okay, so the first one, the recommendation is definitely in this model, you're going to want to narrow your focus, okay, to one target market, and you're solving one urgent problem. Big mistake I see, especially again in the online course world, membership the thing I see is just trying to solve everything under the sun. And especially in that model, with group programs, workshops, and things like that, it's just too much. So you want to really try to increase the specificity and go easy on yourself too, right? Like really focus on solving one thing instead of everything under the sun. All right. So the next one is you want to validate your idea by surveying your audience. So you really want to find out what is it that, we may think it's the greatest idea in the world in terms of our course idea. We might be right, but we also could be very wrong. So my recommendation is validate your idea. All right, do a survey, do some interviews, get some feedback. All right, so the next one is, and this is really in order, I want you to consider pre-selling your course. So basically marketing before the course is actually completely written. And I know that can feel stressful, but again, the mistake I see is that quite often when I see dietitians kind of stepping into this online course world, is they're so focused on creating the content, and actually they become, and I was this way too, so I get it. We spend so much time on the content that we actually never market to fill the course. If you don't fill the course, you don't have a course, right? So it's a little bit of the opposite here. Of course, you're going to want to have, the next bullet point is, to create an outline and maybe create some preliminary content. And you're going to decide on pricing. Like, these are the things you're going to want to decide before you market and try to fill it. But the bottom line is you're going to want to market before you feel ready. If you take one thing away from this segment of my talk, that's it. Okay. Market before you feel ready. Try to fill your course before it's completely written, recorded, and done. That is, I think, really important. And then once you market and fill the course, get people enrolled, you can create your content and deliver the course or the program as you go along. All right. So hopefully that helps. Now I want to go further down that pyramid and just talk a little bit about how to create opportunities to generate passive income. All right. So passive income, basically, I believe there are lots and lots of opportunities in the dietitian world. And so the terminology passive income really implies that you put the work in upfront, and then it really more or less goes on autopilot, right? Generally speaking, and it's not always the case, but generally speaking, these are lower cost items because you're not having to show up live, right? If it's something you're doing live, that's not very passive, obviously. So these are things like ebooks, downloadable e-courses, checklists, workbooks, meal plans, maybe meal plans, shopping lists, and recipes, guides perhaps to manage a specific, disorder. Perhaps you are, you've got a supplement dispensary. That's also a great way to make passive revenue. Maybe you're getting involved in online summits. Maybe you are getting involved with affiliate sales. That's definitely relatively, it can be very passive. And or maybe you are, you've got your own line even of nutraceutical supplements. I have a couple clients that do that as well. They have like a white label line of supplements, and I can say they can do very well from a financial perspective by doing that. So so those are just a few ideas to get you started. So number 5, in terms of these really important strategies or steps to help you to build a really great business. Number 5 is to implement high impact marketing strategies. So I am going to talk a little bit about that now. And specifically, we are going to focus on the online strategies. So we're going to go to online strategies. So these, okay, so again, these are client attraction strategies, basically marketing. All right, so let's go through this list. And my recommendation, I don't want you to get overwhelmed by this long list. Instead, just kind of let me go through it, and maybe you pick one thing that's your next step. All right, one thing that you're like, yep, that's the next thing for me. All right, so let's go through this. I highly recommend that you create an irresistible website freebie so you can begin to cultivate a really engaged audience. Definitely online directory listings, get those updated, make the verbiage really powerful. Social media paid ads are another avenue that can be really, really, it can be very successful in terms of getting people specifically to your website to download your freebie. Okay, so I do want to be clear about that. Social media paid ads, what I'm suggesting is getting them, really the ad is about a freebie that you have. I don't necessarily recommend promoting your paid services because I found that doesn't work super well. Some other things that you can do to kind of ramp things up, look into guest blogging opportunities. I think guest blogging, guest podcasting, guest speaking, amazing to start to build your audience. Doing webinars and video conference programs, basically educating your clients, and this way they can get to know you, they see you. We're building that trust and that relationship. Looking at, joint venture and collaboration opportunities with other people, other businesses, other practitioners that serve a similar market as you. And then we've got live video. Okay, so live video, honestly, this is my what I believe, my bias. If you do one thing on social media, I believe you're going to get a lot of traction if you commit to doing like weekly live streams. Okay, and I know that might sound like a lot, but it's really, really worth your time. All right, so now I want to have a conversation about a sales funnel. All right, I promised to talk a little bit about sales funnels and exactly what that is and how you can create one. So essentially, a sales funnel is a marketing term. It implies a process through which your client meets you, gets to know you, learns the value of your work, and then is invited to purchase something from you. Okay, so a sales funnel then is a multi-step process that essentially coaxes people into eventually becoming clients or customers. But the thing I really want to point out is that it builds the trust and rapport along the way. All right. In my opinion, even in the online space, okay, it is about trust and building relationships. That's really what marketing is. All right. All right. So let's take a peek at a little more depth. So I want you to think of a funnel as a cone. All right. We all love ice cream cones, right? So basically it's, the bottom part of the cone. So a sales funnel, so I do want to point out in this schematic, we're basically flipping that triangle that we used in the profit pyramid. We're flipping it upside down because I want to illustrate some important points. So in a sales funnel, we've got the free stuff on top, right? And this is where people find you. Okay, speaking engagements, blog posts, website, podcasts, like there's a gazillion ways people can actually find you. And this is where people enter your funnel. They enter your world. And then in the next slide, you can see the middle of your sales funnel. This is where you invite people to take a step. Now, I will say it's generally a free step, right? Like in this example, you're basically inviting people to download your free guide, your PDF, your, whatever that, whatever it is, something free that generally requires them to share their name and email address. And so this is a really important step. This is called building your email list, right? So in the next slide, at the bottom of the funnel, you can see the next step is where you invite them into a paid experience, okay? So, and the thing I want to point out is that it is the shape of a funnel, right? You've got the most people on top and it funnels down. You know, you get some people that opt in to join your email list, and then you get some people that want to move to the next step, which is all about, you know, the paid product, right? So so you've got, again, the sales funnel, the highest number of people enter at the top with your free thing, whatever that is. And hopefully you're doing many things out there in terms of marketing. This doesn't cost your client anything. We're just trying to reach them. The middle step is a smaller subset, right? And basically, we are giving them, you know, a really valuable PDF or something in exchange for their name and email address, because we want to have the ability to deepen the relationship. And then at the very bottom, you've got a subset of people that are wanting to take a paid step with you. All right. So, so let's go to the next slide. Okay. So again, as we look at this sales funnel, right, you can see that it's a very strategic process. So I really want you to understand how strategic and purposeful this process is. And the number one mistake that I see regarding, dietitians and nutritionists really trying to move into that leveraged model where they're selling, online courses and PDFs and things like that is, so here's what I tend to see is, we create it, we put it on the website, and then we're sometimes disappointed that, well, gosh, I did all that work and nobody's really finding it, right? And that is very common. So it's really the number one mistake that people make regarding their courses or passive income products is that they have no plan. They just kind of create it and put it online and hope that people will buy it and hope people will find it. And I do want to say that it doesn't happen that way. Unfortunately, we need to have a very strategic plan. And basically, it can be a very simple sales funnel where, and it all starts with a marketing plan, essentially, right? Where you're taking your buyer, your target audience through these different steps and ultimately inviting them to step into a something that's paid. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So I promised to share what I believe is the most effective sales and marketing strategy on the planet. Okay, I can honestly say on the planet. And, I think about all of the practice building strategies out there. And honestly, it's infinite, right? Endless options out there. And truly, they all have their role. Truly, they all do. We've got websites, which are super important, super helpful, to send your clients, your potential clients, to a website. Oftentimes, this is how people find you. You also have, list building, which again, I've talked a lot about that list building funnel, super important as well, because it helps you to develop that know, like, and trust. You've got social media, right, which can absolutely help expand your reach. You've got networking, right, going to networking groups or social events where your clients hang out. And I will say every single one of these is a great way to get in front of people, right, which is perfect. But in terms of really moving them to that next step, to inspire them to make a paid purchase, to actually sign up to work with you, seriously, the best solution to that is a one-to-one conversation, okay? So really want to be clear about that. And I will say, I work with lots and lots of dietitians to help them create really amazing group programs and leveraged offers. Like, remember that middle part of that pyramid, that profit pyramid. And even in kind of those higher end, like group programs, those often are best. The, they often require a conversation with your potential client. Okay, in contrast to asking people just to sign up from like a sales page. So I would say anything that is more than a couple $100s, you're probably going to want to have a conversation with your potential customer or client. So I'm a big fan of one-to-one conversations. I'm a really big fan, even in this busy online world, when it comes to networking, creating relationships, collaborations with other potential referral partners. Don't rule out, honestly, picking up the phone and calling people. I know that could be shocking in this day and age, but it really, really is effective. All right, so now I do have something that I think is really special oh yeah, I do want to summarize. Okay, let me summarize. I almost forgot. So I want to just review those 5 big steps to maximize care and profits in your practice. All right, so first we talked about creating the strategic foundation for your business. Okay, super important. Number 2, we talked about the importance of developing your practice specialization so the right people can find you, right? So that we can position you as the go-to expert in a specific area. Then we talked about the importance of having a really powerful message and being able to describe what you do in a way that's super compelling, catches the attention of your audience, and really is focused on who it is you serve, the problems you solve, and the results and transformations that you help people to achieve. And then number 4 was creating irresistible programs that your clients will love. And we talked about the profit pyramid and how to create different services at a variety of price points. And then we talked about how to implement some high impact sales and marketing strategies. And I gave you a bunch of examples there. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to Sarah. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lesli. It was great to have you talk about some tips and everything for people to take their virtual practice to the next level. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions for Lesli, please leave them in the comment section or in the Q&A box so we can answer them at the Q&A portion of this webinar in just a little bit. But before we get started with our next speaker, we're actually going to take a really quick break to talk about an exciting event that Nutrium is hosting. So we're going to be doing another free webinar in August featuring branding and website strategist and dietitian Whitney Bateson. In this webinar, Whitney will be discussing how you can stand out amongst different practitioners, coaches, trainers, apps, and other websites that are competing for your customers' attention and trust. She will also lead you through the steps she uses in her own business and with her private clients to stand out from the competition and book more clients. Registration for this free event is now open, so you can go ahead and reserve your spot today. We'll add the registration link here in the chat, and we will also be sending you this link in a follow-up email. So now let's move on to our second speaker of the day, Katie Dodd. She is a geriatric dietitian, writer, speaker, consultant, mentor, and leader. Her career goal is to take on innovative opportunities that communicate the strategy or the science of nutrition in ways that help the elderly have impact and inspire others. Dietetics is not only her career, it's her passion, and she always looks for opportunities to support others. Today, Katie will be talking all about how to build your dietitian side hustle to support and enhance your thriving online practice. And don't forget to leave any questions for Katie in the comment section so we can answer them after her presentation. So let's go ahead and have her take it away.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm just really grateful to be here today to talk to all of you, and thank you to Nutrium for having me. And Wasn't Leslie's presentation so good? I don't know about you guys, but I was taking notes. I'm like, yes, so much great information. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about building your dietitian side hustle, dreaming big and getting started. So a little bit about me. I've been a dietitian for about 13 years, and I actually have a full-time job. I work for the VA and do home care. So my business is actually a side hustle. I have a company called Katie Dodd Nutrition, LLC, and under that I have three primary things that I do. The first component of my business is my blog, The Geriatric Dietitian. So my blog is about 2 years old and gets about 100,000 visits per month, and it's bringing in just under $3,000 per month in completely passive income. So that's the first leg of my business. The second is my food blog, High Calorie Recipes. Now that kind of came out of, the Geriatric Dietitian, kind of like as a sister website to kind of complement it. And I started that about 6 months ago, and the vision is to build that blog up to do what the geriatric dietitian is doing. And then the final component of my brand is Dietitian Side Hustle. Now, this consists of a podcast I do weekly, an online community, a website full of resources to help dietitians start side hustles, learn about all the amazing things that we can do online as dietitians. And I also work with dietitians one-on-one and help them to start blogs and essentially build a side hustle the way I've built them through blogging. So other things about me, I do freelance writing, I'm a speaker, I'm a mentor, and I'm a leader within the field. So let's talk about our outcomes for today, what I'm going to talk to you guys about. So throughout this session, you are going to learn about over 50 dietitian side hustle ideas that maybe you never even thought were possible. We're going to uncover solutions to overcome obstacles that prevent you from getting started. I can't tell you how many dietitians I talk to and they say, oh my gosh, I want to start something on the side. I want to do this, but it feels like it just remains a dream in their head and they just run into these obstacles to get started. So we're going to talk about some solutions. And then we're going to discover the 3 steps to actually get started on your dream dietitian side hustle. So the agenda for my part of the session is I'm going to start off by talking to you guys about what is a side hustle. Then we're going to talk about why someone might start a side hustle. And then I'm going to list tons of dietitian side hustle ideas. We're going to talk about those obstacles and more importantly, those solutions. And then I'm going to review the 3 steps to get started. And I'm going to share with you all my getting started checklist. And then we'll wrap things up. So what is a dietitian side hustle? So I Googled this, but this is according to Google, but I thought this was a really great definition of what a side hustle is. So a side hustle is any type of employment undertaken in addition to one's full-time job. A side hustle is generally freelance or piecework in nature, providing a supplemental income. Side hustles are often things a person is passionate about rather than a typical day job or worked in order to make ends meet. So when I think of a traditional job, I think of a 9-to-5 job, although they're usually, 8 to 5, but it's typically a job that we take and we're grateful for because it provides us, that full-time pay. We don't have to worry about the marketing, the sales parts of business. We just show up, we do our thing, we get paid, we get our benefits. There's lots of benefits to working a traditional job, but that's not always what we're passionate about, especially if maybe you're choosing to live in a specific area and there's not a ton of dietitian jobs available where you live. So sometimes we find ourselves in these jobs that while we're very grateful for them and the benefits they provide us, it's not necessarily our passion or why we became a dietitian. So a side hustle is something we just do on the side, outside of that traditional job. And for those of you who are full-time entrepreneurs, think of this as like something extra I might do within my business. So it is supplemental in income, meaning for a side hustle, we're not relying on like this to pay the bills. This is just something that provides above and beyond. And again, it's just something we're passionate about. Oftentimes something we start to bring us back to why we became dietitians. So why we might start a side hustle, there are several different reasons. One of the big ones is just to make some extra income on the side. Depending on where you are in your career, I saw in one of the poll questions that many of you are less than 1 year into starting your practice. Now, I'm not sure how long you've been a dietitian before that, but when we start off as dietitians, a lot of us, we have student loans. If we choose to have children, we realize, oh gosh, it's very expensive to have kiddos. So oftentimes having that extra income is helpful to help us to get out of debt, to do things we're passionate about, like on the side, like take trips, do fun stuff with our families. So lots and lots of benefit on having a side hustle with getting that extra income. The other reason someone might start a side hustle is maybe you eventually want to shift out of a traditional job and, have a full hustle. So a lot of people, depending on their individual situation, they just aren't able to leave a traditional job. So they think, okay, I'm just going to start my side hustle. And then over time, I will build it up to where it's what I do full time. Maybe it's an area you're passionate about. I talked about how some dietitians were in jobs just due to availability. And while we're grateful for them, it's not our passion. It's not like, oh, I'm so excited to go to work every day. Where a side hustle is something that we do on the side that we choose to do, and you can make it whatever you want. So you can do, all of your dreams that you have with things you want to do within the career, you can do on your own as a side hustle. It's also a way to have fun and to live out those dreams that you have. And also, if you are feeling bored and unengaged in your job, it's just this creative outlet that allows you to really come back to the core of why we became dietitians. So now let's talk about those dietitian side hustle ideas. Now I've got a lot of bullet points here on the screen, and I am going to dive into each of these individually. And I know that we have a pull up, and I see that for the side hustles that you guys have, there's actually a few bloggers on, which is great. Some of you are influencers, some of you do teaching, and it looks like about half of people are saying other. So I'm curious if maybe some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, some of you are already doing. So I'm just going to read this really quick, and then we're going to dive into each one. But when it comes to side hustles, there are lots of opportunities: freelance writing, doing webinars, live speaking engagements, one-on-one patient care, blogging. That's my favorite side hustle. That's my primary thing I do. Teaching, cooking classes, podcasting, working with brands, being an influencer, coaching, grocery store tours, culinary work, selling physical goods or digital goods, direct sales, affiliate marketing. And this last point is key: it can be anything. So I'm going to be diving into each and every one of these areas, starting with freelance writing. I often tell people, anytime you see words like on a business, either something printed out on their website, on social, someone probably got paid to create that, to write that. And so why not you? There are so many opportunities for doing freelance writing that I think a lot of us aren't even aware of. So I will say, with my dietitian side hustle Facebook group, I often poll the community, like, what side hustles do you want to learn more about? What are you interested in? And consistently, freelance writing has been the highest one that dietitians are interested in. And I think it's because it's something we could do on our own time. It's typically a one-time contract. Sometimes it can be recurring, but you get a gig, you do your writing, and you get paid an amount of money for it. But it's not like you have a little more flexibility on when you can do it and how you do it. So some areas that you might get involved with freelance writing, it could be writing for blog articles. So, there's a lot of websites and blogs out there, not just by dietitians, but by other healthcare professionals, by businesses. And they're often looking for articles written by a nutrition professional who knows what they're talking about and gives them that street cred, being the dietitian. So there's opportunities to write blogs. There's also opportunities to write for magazines. The first time I wrote in a magazine was for Today's Dietitian, and I was so excited. And they even to this day, they still accept paid articles that they pay dietitians to write for their magazine. But there's so many other magazines that will pay you to write content. So, I don't know about you, but when I read magazines, I love it when I see an article by a dietitian. I'm like, good job, magazine, you hired the right person. Then you have copywriting. So copywriting is kind of like, it's like that sales script. It's like, it's providing them the information that's going to make someone want to buy something. So I had some experience doing some copywriting for a supplement company for their Amazon page, which was pretty fun, because as dietitians, we are able to pull in our knowledge, of science, and even just breaking things down on a practical, level on how this nutrient is beneficial to you and why you might need it, why you should have it. So copywriting is another wonderful area for freelance writing. CPE articles. So continuing education articles, there are a lot of companies specific in dietetics that offer CPE articles for dietitians, but then even outside of our field, if you think about all the other healthcare professions, like we all need continuing education credits, right? So when we write these articles, they're, at least in dietetics world, they're good for about 3 years. Then they have to be updated. So there are people out there looking for dietitians with different specialty areas to create a CPE article, but then also after that 3-year period, maybe to go in and update an article. So, pulling in the most current research and making sure that it is up to date and current. So there are lots of opportunities for CE companies who are hiring dietitians within our field, but then also outside of our field in other interdisciplinary healthcare teams, because gosh, every healthcare professional needs to know a little bit about what we do in nutrition, right? And what better person to teach them than dietitians. And then finally, we have editing, and there's a lot of different ways you could edit. You could do technical editing. Maybe you're doing content editing. Oftentimes a blog might hire someone to write an article, and then they'll hire a dietitian to go over and do some copy edit or some content editing, meaning like double check that this is all correct. If it's not, let's fix it before we publish it, because we want to make sure that our information is credible. So these are just some of the examples on how you can utilize freelance writing for your side hustle. So our next side hustle is doing webinars. And I think with the pandemic, we've seen even more of this on how it's possible. And there's just so many opportunities with like what we're on right now, right? So with webinars, you could do live or on demand. So live is wonderful because you could have this interaction like you guys are having with the polls and the chat box and the question, but on demand is great too, because we all have different schedules and we can be busy. So sometimes it's helpful to have a pre-recorded webinar available so people can watch it on their own time. Now, you can host your own webinar, so self-hosted, but I will say you have to make sure that you have an audience. If we're going to host a webinar, we want to make sure that we actually have people who are going to be there to watch it. So we have to have an audience, a way to market, and a way to get people on that webinar. Now, for a lot of people who are maybe just starting and you're like, I don't really have a brand or an audience, you can work with different associations and businesses to do webinars. So different associations might be even thinking of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the dietetic practice groups, the state level, the local level, outside of our field and other healthcare professions. There are lots of different groups who are offering webinars, some for CE, some just for education. And you're able to figure out like, okay, who's out there doing these webinars and how am I able to get in front of them and present for them and get paid to do it? And then also with businesses, that might be something more on like a corporate wellness setting. So you're providing a webinar to employees in like employee wellness types of settings. So those are some examples for webinars. And again, we see a lot of those right now with the pandemic. But the next one I want to talk about is speaking, and speaking like in person. And I know we're like, what's that? It's been so long since we've been able to do this, but hopefully it's coming back. So you can do speaking at conferences. So kind of like what I said with webinars, you know, within our profession, the big academy has FNCE, the Food Nutrition Conference and Expo every year. I know it's been virtual last year and this year, but hopefully in the future it will be in person, and they do pay their speakers. You have also conferences at the state level, and then thinking outside the box of other healthcare professions. So conferences for dentists, dental hygienists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, psychologists. Like just imagine all of those conferences that are going on nationally and at the state level. And if you go to their websites, there's always a call for speakers. So you got to figure out where would I want to present based on my knowledge and skill set, and finding out what is their call for speakers and submitting an application and hopefully getting selected to speak in person at a conference. So other places that you could speak would include schools. You know, there's lots of different types of schools that you could present with, but also libraries. This one surprised me. I didn't realize that a lot of libraries have budgets available to hire people to come in and speak and to teach on different topics. And, you know, nutrition is such an amazing area and everyone's interested in it. And there's so many different things that we could talk about. So oftentimes you might find your speaking gig at your local library. Also different businesses, again, with corporate wellness, and even just speaking on behalf of a business. So next we have patient care. So this might be one that a lot of you on the call, maybe you already do this, or maybe you're wanting to start it, but patient care can look a lot of different ways. Now, we know with 2020, it's made it so wonderful with telehealth, not only with our ability to do telehealth, but I think with our clients' ability to accept telehealth. They're like, okay, this is almost the new norm. So it's become, you know, even better for reaching people through telehealth. But then we also have kind of old school where you see people face to face. And this could be something you do independently, whether or not you are, you know, renting out a space, or you are working with a provider, maybe a doc, seeing people out of an outpatient clinic, or even working within a facility. So next we have blogging. Like I said, it's my favorite. So these are just a few of the ways that you can make money through blogging. There's going to be a lot more. As I talk about different side hustles, I actually incorporate a lot of them within my blog business. But one of the primary ways I know I make money through my blog is through advertising. So having ads on my website has been a significant source of income for the website. Also having sponsored posts where you work with different brands and companies who align with your vision. And it could, you know, they would sponsor a post that you'd write on your website. You could also have a membership website where people pay you a monthly or annual fee to access what's behind the firewall of your website. So a bunch of different resources to provide value to them. But through my blog, I also have, through my multiple streams of income, through courses, digital goods, and affiliate sales, which I'll be talking about in the other side hustles. So our next side hustle is teaching. And teaching can be in a lot of different places, and it can be online or in person. So thinking of colleges, most community colleges, they have a nutrition 101 course, right? So there's lots of opportunity for dietitians to teach at their local community college, but then also at universities. Now, when it comes to teaching within schools, maybe you might have to have your master's or even your doctorate, depending on what level that you'll be teaching at. But there's oftentimes opportunities just for you to like maybe teach one class a semester, and that would be like something you do on the side. But there's also online programs, and we've been seeing this for a while, but we see in more and more online universities, colleges and programs, and again, awesome opportunities for dietitians, because that you could even do from home with your webcam and microphone. So next we have cooking classes. So this is kind of, it falls in line with teaching, right? But this is more for those dietitians like, oh my gosh, I love food, I love cooking. So a lot of dietitians, we're just good at cooking. Some aren't, and that's okay. But if this is your passion, then you can provide cooking classes, cooking demos at local health fairs, at your farmer's market, at grocery stores, even for like the local parks and rec department. Oftentimes local parks and rec departments have opportunities where you can submit like, I want to teach this cooking class. And when people sign up, you get a percentage of what the sales are. So that's another amazing side hustle. And the next one I want to talk about is podcasting. And podcasting is an interesting one because podcasting can be a way that you, something you just do for fun, like a hobby, but can also be a legitimate side hustle and business. Ways that podcasters typically make money, there's usually two ways. Number one would be by having sponsors. So if you've ever listened to a podcast, maybe the beginning, middle, and end, you'll hear this like this, podcast episode was brought to you by, and they give their little spiel for, maybe 15, 30 seconds. That's someone getting paid by having a sponsor on their podcast. But other ways, and I think probably the better way to make money is by using your podcast as a lead magnet. So people are able to find you through your podcast. They get to know, like, and trust you. And then through the episodes, depending on what you're talking about, you can lead them to your website, to your show notes, to a product or service that you have. And because they're in your audience, they're listening to you, they might be more likely to go, grab that ebook that you're offering or sign up for that little program you're offering. So the next one is going to be working with brands. Take a quick sip of water here. So you could work with brands in so many different ways. I keep going back to the fact that dietitians provide so many valuable services and so many different areas. And there are lots and lots of companies out there who would love to work with a dietitian because of the expertise and knowledge that we offer. Now, you could be working with brands doing sponsored posts. So maybe you have a post on your social media site or on your blog to, showcase this brand. It could also be through networking. Maybe you work with a brand and you're connecting that brand with other dietitians or maybe other clients. You could be doing some media work. So maybe going on TV or even going to like a conference or a trade show, working a booth and representing that brand and speaking on behalf of them. You could also do newsletters where you create content, written content for them, or even work on different one-off projects depending on the needs that they have. And there are so many different brands from, the food industry, the supplement industry, the service industry, business. There are so many different types of potential brands that dietitians can be working with. And I always think it's wonderful when dietitians are working with brands because then the brand has that view of, okay, dietitians are valuable. Look at this, service and skill they could offer. And then they're more likely to bring in more dietitians and improve the, whatever they offer to the public because they're utilizing dietitians and the evidence-based approach that we take. So next we have being an influencer. And I feel like this one sometimes can be a little controversial, but I want to talk to you guys about it. So an influencer could be someone who and I'm sure you guys can think of influencers off the top of your head. That's someone who has a really big following online, maybe a YouTuber, they could be a spokesperson, or maybe they're really big on social. They have a big Instagram following, TikTok stars, we're seeing more of those. So influencers are people who have really big followings, and they typically get paid by different brands and sponsorships. And I think why this one's a little controversial is because I think a lot of dietitians, we get a little irritated because we see all these really big influencers and people who are like getting their nutrition advice from someone who like is just a random person who happens to have a big following. But influencers are kind of legit. The way the world has changed, and people, they know, like, and they trust these influencers. So in my opinion, I would rather see a dietitian. Now, not every dietitian, is built to be an influencer. If you're like, that sounds like awful, that's fine. But for those of you who are like, I love building an audience, I love sharing nutrition knowledge with my personal life, and I'd love to just grow up and build this, big audience and, really be the face of my brand and be an influencer, then I would so much rather see a dietitian rise up and be an influencer so the public is getting correct information. And honestly, I'd rather see the dietitian getting that money to share correct information. So if you are thinking, my gosh, I'd love to be an influencer, I say it is a wonderful dietitian side hustle to pursue. So our next one is coaching, and coaching could be like nutrition coaching. So maybe instead of doing like medical nutrition therapy with your clients, you want to do more nutrition coaching or health coaching. Or maybe you want to work with coaching dietitians or coaching students. So maybe helping them to pass an exam or get that first job, or, whatever your skill set is. There's so many different ways that we could help our peers through our side hustle. So our next side hustle is grocery store tours. And I think sometimes as dietitians, there's so many things that come natural to us and that we just know how to do, but we have to remind ourselves that the general public doesn't always know the stuff, like how to shop at a grocery store to find those good nourishing foods for our bodies. So dietitians can have a side hustle where they provide a grocery store tour working with a grocery store, maybe working with a business as part of a corporate wellness program, or even through their own program that they offer. So kind of in line with the food angle, we have culinary work. So again, because a lot of dietitians love food, oftentimes dietitians are getting gigs doing recipe development. So creating recipes, doing food photography, so taking those beautiful pictures of food, or even food blogging. Next, we have selling physical goods. So these are goods you created. Now, this could be maybe a food product, maybe a supplement. It could be a book that you've written or created. It could be swag, thinking of like clothes, stickers, coffee mugs. I mean, there's so many different things that you can potentially create and sell to your target audience. Next, we have selling digital goods. So these are digital goods you created, and these can be a lot of things. It could be handouts, it could be courses, it could be toolkits, it could be ebooks. And I always say, so many dietitians, like, you might already have some products on your computer. I always say, like, sitting there collecting digital dust. So maybe you created these amazing handouts and you're not really using them. They're just sitting there. So if you're able to take those awesome handouts or resources you've made and put them on a platform where you're able to sell them, you're helping the public. Maybe you sell them to dietitians so they could use them in their practice. But sometimes we have little streams of income just sitting on our computer and we're not even thinking about it. So we'll go to our next slide, and I want to talk to you guys about direct sales. So when it comes to selling, I talked about physical goods, the ones you create. Sometimes we don't have the creativity or just really the oomph in us to make an actual thing, but that's where direct sales can come in handy, is you can sell something that's already been made. So direct sales, there are so many different areas that you as a dietitian can work in. There's fitness, wellness, supplements, really anything. And the nice thing about direct sales companies is that they often have a lot of, like, the marketing's already done. They often provide a lot of training on how to make sales. So you learn a lot of really good business skills from working in direct sales. Now, I know some dietitians who work with selling skincare products. And that's even though skincare products isn't exactly dietetics, it is a wonderful tie-in because they can talk about how through good nutrition and hydration, we can take care of our skin. And they could talk about, from the inside and outside with the skin product that they believe in. I know other dietitians who sell supplements, who even sell Beauty Counter, which is like a makeup and like lotions. They make all kinds of fun stuff. But there are lots of opportunities for having a side hustle where you're incorporating direct sales. So next we have affiliate marketing, and affiliate marketing is where it's kind of like that same concept of you're selling like something you didn't create, because the reality is we can't be everything to everyone. And if we could find a product or service that we know would help our ideal client and that we've, used ourselves and we totally believe in it, we can sell that product and make a small commission off of it. So an example of what that might look like is courses, software or different platforms, digital goods, physical products. So you're recommending this. And when people go through, we call it an affiliate link, there's a special code on the link you're sharing. If people purchase through your link because you're recommending it, then you would get a percentage of that purchase. So that's a lot of me talking about side hustles, guys. But the last thing I wanted to emphasize is your side hustle can be anything. Now, I've heard of dietitians doing birthday parties, and I don't know about you, but I think that's so cool. Like, hey kids, who do you want to have at the birthday party? The dietitian. They were doing cooking classes, like fun cooking classes. Also a dietitian teaching mermaid swimming classes. Like, how cool is that? Because, physical fitness and nutrition go hand in hand. Selling inspirational swag. I know a dietitian, she sells these really empowering t-shirts and mugs with just these really inspirational messages. I know of dietitians serving as expert witnesses for court cases, doing meal prepping for clients, and even something as simple as Uber. So there are like limitless opportunities for side hustles. And I just want to provide that encouragement. If it's something you're passionate about doing, and even if it doesn't necessarily fall in line with dietetics, even if it's slightly outside, it's absolutely something that you can do and add to your wheelhouse. So I'm curious. I know we just talked about a ton of different side hustle ideas, but I'm hoping that like the wheels are turning and you're thinking like, oh man, this sounds fun. I think I might want to start this or this or this. So if you guys are able to, go ahead and comment in the chat and let me know what side hustle stood out to you that you're like, yes, I would love to start doing that. So we are going to move on. And now I want to talk to you guys about some of those obstacles to getting started. So I think as dietitians, many of us are perfectionists. So sometimes we're like, I have to get everything right before I could start. And the sad part is we often have these dreams in our heads that never become a reality. So I want to talk about some of these obstacles, and then we'll talk about the solutions on how we can kind of tackle them. But the three big obstacles I want to talk about are, you don't know what you want to do. Now, maybe you have a broad idea of like, yeah, I want to start a side hustle. Yeah, I want to see clients. Yeah, I want to start a blog, but you have no idea what your niche is, or you don't even know how you can take that dream and like make money from it. The next thing is you don't know how to do it. You don't know, like if you want to be a blogger, you have no idea the tech on how to create that website. You have no idea the strategy on how to find patients. You don't know any of those business skills that you need to have as an entrepreneur. So what happens when we take number one and number two of not knowing what we want to do and not knowing how to do it? When we add in perfectionism, unfortunately, that often leads to just complete overwhelm and inaction. So these are the three biggies I'm going to talk about, but I also do want to address other obstacles that are very legitimate. One is time, confidence, and money. So we'll go through now and address each and every one of these. And I see a couple people sharing that they're interested in blogging or influencing. Good. We need more dietitian influencers. So looking at our first obstacle, the problem of not knowing what you want to do. And this can be a struggle because you have this general idea of I want to do something, like making passive income sounds so fun. Doing this sounds so fun. I want to do it, but I just don't know very specifically what I want to do. So the solution for this, first off, I would say is learn what is possible. There are so many dietitians in all of the spaces that I talked about before who are already out there doing the thing. You can learn from them. Now on my website, dietitiansidehustle.com, I have a whole resource page that's dedicated to different resources on like how you could learn about all these things. So I have a bunch of Facebook groups for dietitians to join, podcasts that they could listen to. I recommend a lot of dietitians and their websites. So even just going to the website, you could like go to these Facebook groups and join them and learn from all these other dietitians who are doing these things you might want to do. So first off, you got to learn what's possible. And there is so much information online where, we can discover these things on our own. Next, discover your passion. I think this is really important when starting a side hustle or doing something entrepreneurial is what are you passionate about? I think sometimes we get stuck in our head and we think like, okay, I really want to do this, but logically I should do this because I probably could make more money doing this. Or we see someone else doing something and we see their success and we're like, oh my gosh, I want to be like them and have their success. But we're not them. And maybe we have different skill sets and different strengths and different things we're good at. So sometimes it's figuring out like, what are you really passionate about and good at, and what do you want to do? And understanding it's okay to follow that passion, even if you have that, second guessing and doubt in your head. And then the final thing is picking a path. So get out there, figure out what the heck is possible, figure out what do you really love to do, and then find the path on how to get there. So we need to Thank you. So we need to make a decision and then take action. And one thing I wanted to add, especially when it comes to a niche, a lot of people worry, and I know Leslie shared some great information about this, but a lot of people get worried about like, oh, I don't want to stick to something. But I love saying like, you're never married to your niche. I always recommend like, try it and stick with it, like give it a good try. But over time, you can pivot, you can change. But the reality is we just have to get started and get out there and do the thing and then find out, okay, is this what I love? So obstacle number 2. So talking about like, you just don't know how to do it. Like maybe you know what you want to do, you just don't know how to do it. So the solution for this would be to first off, learn how to do the thing. So I mentioned on my website that I've got those Facebook groups that I've listed from all these different dietitians, these podcasts and these websites, and you could actually learn even for free through podcasts. You can go to people's websites, take advantage of free and paid resources. So taking courses or online programs, I think is just so valuable to learn specifically how to do things. I think sometimes we're stuck in this problem of we live in this digital age where we can Google and find out anything. And sometimes there's this temptation to, I'm just going to figure it out on my own. I'm just going to go the free route. I'm just going to Google and I'm just going to learn this on my own. But sometimes the struggle with that is that it takes you a long time on how to figure out how to do the thing. Maybe you'll do the wrong thing. You got to fix it. You got to go back, or you'll just get burnt out because you've just been spinning your wheels trying to figure out what to do. So sometimes it is worth the investment of joining an online course or a program or working with a business coach to get the framework and the steps on how to actually do the thing, because you'll be learning from that individual successes and failures. So you'll learn like, here's what you should do and here's what not to do. Next, finding a community of like-minded people is so important because they're going to keep you inspired and then also kind of teach you along the way, because, when you're trying to learn how to do the thing, if you're around people who are doing like what you want to do, which is the value of those online Facebook communities and being in masterminds and business coaching, is that you're surrounded by people who are going to, provide different levels of value and really keep you inspired and keep going. And then finally, if you don't know what to do or how to do it, would be learn business skills. Like absolutely learn business skills. That is so important. And Leslie was sharing a lot of very valuable business skills earlier. So make sure you go back, catch the replay, like double check your notes and like soak that in because it's so important. So next, talking about problem 3, when we take the issue of we don't know what we want to do, we don't know how to do it, we add perfectionism, it leads to that overwhelm and inaction. So let's talk about the solution to this one. So I would say probably the biggest thing I found as I've gotten into the entrepreneurial world is that mindset is everything. One of my business coaches, he always says with everything in life, it's 80% mindset, 20% mechanics. So what does that mean? So the 20% mechanics is like being a dietitian. It's doing the thing. It's seeing the client. It's making the blog. Where the 80% is your mindset. It's your belief that you can do it. It's your ability to break down those barriers that we put in our own mind. And I will say, I think the longer I've been in the entrepreneurial game, the more I believe like, man, I think it's more 90, even 99% mindset when it comes to having success, because so often we get in our own way and we think, oh, who do I think I am? I'm not good enough. This isn't good enough. And we never even start just based on fear. So working on your mindset is so amazing and so valuable. Next is letting go of perfectionism. And this ties in with mindset. And I think this is a really big one for dietitians because we do get stuck in perfectionism. And the next thing is taking massive action. So I always say that, imperfect action trumps inaction, like every day of the week. If we get so caught up in, oh my gosh, it's got to be perfect, I've got to do this like just the right way, we're never going to get started. And when we take action, when we take massive action, then we are able to get better over time because we're doing the thing day in and day out. And that's what leads to us to get better, because reality, perfectionism is an illusion. We just got to get out there and do the thing. So you have to be willing to learn to let go, to take massive action, and be willing to be imperfect. Surround yourself with community that will help you get there and also encourage you, despite that maybe that voice in your head that like makes you doubt yourself and not want to move forward. Okay, so I did want to address those other obstacles really quickly because I think they're important. But when it comes to time, so I know we have a poll up, and this is really fun seeing what you guys are sharing about how you guys overcome obstacles. And I know a lot of you are saying scheduling time blocks, practicing self-care, blocking distractions, having confidence in your self, and it's actually pretty split. Like you guys are doing a lot of these great things. So my recommendations for time actually are kind of in line with what some of you are already doing. But one of the things I do is I audit my time. So I actually have a planner where I keep track of all of my time, and I actually go back and look at how I'm spending my time. And I identify, was this a good use of my time? Was it moving my business, my brand forward? Or was it just me spinning my wheels doing something that I thought maybe I was supposed to do? I think sometimes the way we get caught up in this, I always think of like Instagram. Maybe we think like, okay, someone said I have to post on Instagram every day to have success in my business, so I'm doing this every day. But in some business models, yes, that's totally valuable and amazing. But in other business models, maybe that's not the best use of your time. So if you're doing something day in and day out because you just think you're supposed to, and you're not really actually having the return on investment, it's not, helping to move your business forward, then that's probably not the best use of your time. So if you're able to go back and audit your time, where am I spending it? And then kind of reevaluate on how to best use your time. But it really starts with, we have to know, how are we using your time if we're going to improve the time? Next, I block distractions. I mean, on my phone, I turn off all my notifications. I access my phone when I need it. I'm very much like laser focused when I'm working on my business. And then with that laser focus, that means I set really big goals and I figure out the steps on how to get there. And I just put on my blinders and I focus on that goal until I achieve it. So I don't let things distract me and waste my time. And then I also schedule time blocks. It sounds like quite a few of you do that as well. And then I practice self-care. And that is just so important, because if you find yourself saying, I can't go take a walk, I can't go spend time with someone or do the thing that I want to do because I'm too busy, I got to get this done, then that's a good time to reevaluate how you're spending your time, because that's the surefire way to lead to burnout. So when it comes to confidence, I'll just say refer to obstacle number 3 for money. If you feel like, oh, gosh, I want to do this, but I just don't have the money to do it, then take advantage of free resources. There are so many free things online, even by dietitians, that you could take advantage of. There's podcasts. I work in home care for my full-time job. Before I really even got pretty big into the entrepreneurial game, I was just listening to podcasts all the time. And that's how I learned a lot. There's blogs, Facebook communities, etc. And then really reflect on what's more important to you, money or time. And I feel like this is kind of a hard conversation, but really figuring out, if we take the free route, oftentimes it will take us more time. When you are in pain, paying for something, I call that an investment. Thinking of it like school, right? We went to school because we knew we'd come out as a dietitian and be able to make money and do the thing. So it comes down to investing in the right thing and recognizing that you will reach your goals faster and probably start making money faster. So it really is this hard balance. And I totally understand, because I was there. So it's just something you just kind of got to evaluate. Like, am I just going to take the long haul and take some time to learn everything on my own? Or am I willing to sacrifice some money short-term, understanding this is an investment and I will make my money back and even more. So next slide. Now we're going to talk about the 3 steps to getting started. And I have a little checklist. It's a 1-page PDF that I encourage each of you to grab. There's a certain slide where you're able to click a button and download it, and I'll direct you to that. And I'm not sure if Sarah's able to drop the link in the chat either, but I'm going to walk you through the 3 steps for getting started. And there's a worksheet that kind of goes along with this. But basically, it's all about reflection and planning, having a game plan, getting your ideas out of your head and on paper. And it comes down to figuring out, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And how are you going to get there? So we're going to go through each and every one of these. First off, what are you doing? Now, we talked about a ton of different side hustle ideas, and I know some of you shared them in the comments, and there's just so many different things that we potentially could do. So figuring out, first off, what are you going to do? And it's on the checklist. You can check it off. And maybe you want to do lots of things. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, Katie, I want to do this, this, and this. That's okay. That's how I was too. But check off those things, but focus on the one thing you're going to pursue first, one thing at a time. So next, you need to figure out why you're doing it. And I think this piece is so important and often overlooked. And it comes down to, especially with a side hustle, you need to build your side hustle on a solid foundation. If it's something that's fleeting, that's like, oh, this is fun. When life gets busy, when things happen, you might be more likely to give up unless you build your side hustle on a solid foundation of understanding why you're doing the thing. Now, this is where I just encourage you to consider, like, what drives you? Is it relationships? Is it having a good relationship with your significant other, spending time with your parents while they're still around, spending time with your kids while they're still in the house, having and fostering good relationships with your friends? Is that like what really drives you? Maybe it's a vision of your future life. Maybe you've always had this vision of, I'm going to live here and do this and have this. And it's always been this idea in your head. And you know that through your side hustle or your business, this is what you'll be able to achieve. Maybe it's your faith. I know for me, my faith drives pretty much everything that I do. And for a lot of people, that is their underlying why. Other people, maybe it's your health. Maybe you've gone down a different path before and you just recognize the value and the benefit of health for you, but then also for other people. Maybe you just have a strong desire to make an impact on this world and leave a legacy. Maybe you have a personal story. You've been through something really hard and you've been able to see like the transformative power of food and nutrition and what it's done in your life. And you see other people who are suffering and you want to help them so they don't suffer the way you did. So a lot of us have that personal story where you're like, I've got to stop this. I've got to help people. I've got to help them. Maybe it can be finances, and that's perfectly legitimate, because maybe you just feel like, I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. I'm tired of fighting with my significant other over finances, and you just want financial freedom so you don't have to worry about money. Or maybe beyond that, you want time freedom. And financial freedom and time freedom often go hand in hand, but time freedom meaning you can do what you want when you want to. You're not like stuck with doing work all the time. And that's honestly where passive income comes in very much, because you're able to make money. You have to create systems ahead of time and make stuff ahead of time. But it's just really wonderful because you could have the time and flexibility to do what you want to do when you want to do it and not be tied to a traditional job or be feeling like you have to see patients all the time. So my encouragement is to consider, what is your why, and ask yourself, is it strong enough to weather any storm? Because the reality with entrepreneurship, it's not this like you start and everything is awesome and awesome and awesome, or it's often this up and down where like you're having success and then you're like, you go back down, like an obstacle happens, something happens. And so it's this constant up and down. And if you have a very strong why and a very clear vision of your future, you're more likely to stay the path when you build your side hustle on a foundation that is really solid with what your why is. So on the checklist, there's a spot where you would fill out like, why do you want to start a side hustle? Maybe again, to make that extra income on the side, maybe to eventually shift out of that full-time job. Just maybe it's an area you're passionate about. Maybe you're bored, not engaged with your full-time job, to have fun, live out your dreams. But then the other part, that's the part where you really write down like that really solid why that you have. So next we have the how. How are you getting there? So the reality is, I've talked about a bunch of different side hustles, and while every side hustle is a little different, the path to get there is ultimately the same. It all comes down to business skills. I'm in a mastermind right now with a bunch of healthcare professionals, and I'm the only one who doesn't see patients, but all of these business skills that I'm learning, like they're all the same and they apply to what I do outside of business. So while side hustles are different, the path is the same. First, you need to identify your path. You need to figure out what are the tools and resources you need. Now, this may be like, who are the experts in this area I want to go into? Where are the online communities? What are some podcasts I can listen to? Some trainings or courses I could take advantage of? Maybe I need to like find some physical resources or digital goods. Maybe you need to learn more about something. Maybe you're moving into maybe you want to create a course and you need to learn, how do I create that course? Or maybe you want to learn how to make a podcast. You got to figure out how to do the thing. What are the equipment and resources you'll need to start? So if you're doing a podcast, you'll need a nice microphone, a way to record, a way to host something online. So what resources do you need? And then also consider, if you need to create a business plan. You totally don't need to. I know I did, but that's also my personality type. Maybe you need to take an online course to learn some things, maybe start some one-on-one coaching, start getting some business skills, or maybe something else altogether. So on the checklist, there's a spot where you would write down, like, what do I need to do before I get started? And you can check that off, and you could write what specifically you need to do based on your side hustle. So next we have setting goals. And I think this is so important, which is why I like the handout that I'm giving you guys. I actually recommend printing that out, get your pen, write down everything on paper, because I think there's a lot of value to it. So when it comes to setting your goals, oops, I think we went a little, can we go? But there we go. Perfect. So when it comes to setting your goals, I just really recommend not skipping this step, because I think it can be very tempting to be like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to do it. But think about what we teach our patients. So we talked to them about SMART goals, right? The specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. Now, that's just something I recommend that we do as dietitians. Now, our goals are going to be unique to you, but they should really be grounded in your why. But that's where you create the very specific plan on how you are going to achieve your goals. So on the checklist, there's a spot to write down 3 goals for getting started. So if you go to the next slide, you can see there at the very bottom, that's where you write down, here's what I'm very specifically going to do to reach my goals. So that is the checklist. And I hope that is helpful for you guys when it comes to getting started, to figuring out like, okay, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? What you need to learn before you get started, skills you need to develop in setting those goals. So hopefully you're able to download that checklist, and hopefully sooner than later, like when you get off this webinar, print that out and fill it out, and really take the momentum that you're getting from this webinar to move forward with getting started in whatever you want to do. And even if you're not talking side hustles, even if you're like, I'm a full-time entrepreneur, you could still do this if you want to start a new, thing within your business. So we talked about quite a bit. We went through over 50 different side hustle ideas. Maybe you never thought were possible or considered, like, oh, I could write continuing education, articles, or, oh my goodness, I could make money through podcasting. And hopefully something in there sparked an idea and just really maybe lit a fire in you and something you want to pursue. We talked about some solutions to overcome those obstacles that typically prevent people from getting started. And then we talked about the 3 steps to actually start your dream side hustle and the worksheet that will help you get there. So if you guys have any questions in the future, we're about to do Q&A, but if you have any questions, you can find me. My email is on the screen. You could follow me on Instagram at Dietitian Side Hustle. Join our Dietitian Side Hustle Facebook group. Now we have a page, but I recommend the group because the group is just more interactive, and it's just a way that you can collaborate too with other side hustlers or entrepreneurs. You can go to the website, dietitiansidehustle.com, and that page has a lot of really valuable resources. There's a page all about side hustle ideas. And again, just a lot of resources to get you started. And then finally, you can listen to my podcast, Dietitian Side Hustle. It's found on all of the major podcast directories. And yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. And I hope that this provided you with some inspiration and some knowledge and insights to get started.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. It's always amazing to hear about different opportunities dietitians have to really grow their businesses virtually. And I just love how versatile the entire nutrition world is. So now we're actually going to move into the Q&A portion of the webinar. We're going to be addressing comments that you've left throughout both presentations, but please continue to leave your questions here so we can answer as many as possible. We have already had quite a few comments, so we're just going to start directing to both Lesli and Katie and just kind of spur a lively discussion here. So the first one we've actually had come through is about insurance. And I wanted to address this one real quick because some people may not accept insurance and be cash pay only. So if you're doing that, are you bound by the same EHR, record keeping, assessments, session notes, et cetera, as someone who accepts insurance and practices? So they're planning on becoming offering nutrition coaching so they can work with clients in other states, but they're also wanting to work with clients one-on-one. So that was just kind of their general question. I don't know if you guys have any insight on that.
So is the question, just to be clear, so if this is somebody that is not going to take insurance?
Yes.
And they're
so
wondering if the rules are the same?
Yeah, if you don't accept insurance and want to be cash pay only, are you bound by the same EHR record keeping as someone who accepts insurance?
Okay, so I'm not an expert. I personally, this is me talking, Leslie, I never took insurance in my practice. So, I didn't have to jump through all those hoops myself. But that being said, I think probably the most important thing that you want to do regardless is to have a HIPAA compliant platform that you're using, right? So I do think some of the paperwork and some of the logistics are probably the same. That being said, in terms of how you document, I would imagine, you can document, I think, any way you want. So I do believe, unless someone else has any other insight on that, my thought is much less rigorous in terms of documentation.
Awesome. Okay, great. I think that answers that question. Okay, so then we actually have a few other ones here that are more geared toward like the side hustles, making money on the sides, all that kind of stuff. So one of them is, how do you find opportunities to write for a magazine or for a company?
Oh, good question. So a couple of different ways. Well, I think a couple strategies. I think one strategy that a lot of dietitians don't take advantage of is LinkedIn. So having a LinkedIn page that is up to date and says up high when people first see it that you are a writer. I think that's a great way because there's a lot of people who are looking for dietitian writers through LinkedIn. So if we can make it really clear who we are and what we do, that often opens a door. But when it comes to finding those writing gigs, what I recommend is brainstorming where are places that you would want to write for. So think of what are the magazines you might want to write for, maybe the blogs or the businesses, and then go to their websites. And oftentimes when you scroll to the bottom, there's often like a section that says write for us, work for us, writer's guidelines. You click on that and you could learn about the opportunities and possibilities. I know for today's dietitian, if you go, I'm pretty sure that when you scroll to the bottom and it says like writer's guidelines or something like that. And when you go on their website, there's, it tells you how to actually submit your idea and to see if you'll get selected to write an article. So, so again, brainstorm and research potential areas you could write for, and then go to their websites, look around. If you can't find it, then you could always send them an email and ask like, do you have any writing opportunities, or do you have need for this? So it's kind of a two-way street, is that you can, make sure that your online professional platform through LinkedIn is set up correctly, but then also doing the work to go out and search for those gigs yourself. Now, another one specific just for kind of like the broader picture of freelance writing, there are some platforms you can sign up for to find gigs. Upwork.com is a really good one. It's up work. So UPWORK. And that is a platform where people are actually posting looking for freelancers. And that's just one, there's others out there, but that's where I got a lot of some of my early freelance gigs. I was writing for blogs. That's where I did the copywriting work. And I found that through this online platform. So, so I guess, yeah, those are three good strategies to find those freelance writing gigs. And again, there's lots of opportunities out there.
And then just kind of to piggyback off the LinkedIn question, someone else wondered if it was okay to promote yourself on a side hustle while you have a full-time job, like on LinkedIn.
Yes, I actually just did a Facebook Live in my group on this the other day because it's a really important topic. Because the first thing I'm going to say is it depends, because we all work different jobs. Some of us, maybe we work kind of like at a big box place, and we need to figure out what are the like policies and procedure or policies for that place where we work. Other places, maybe you're working like on a contract basis, maybe for a smaller practice. So in that case, you need to read your contract and what does it say? So some places actually have policies where they don't want you to have outside work. Some contracts have maybe a non-compete or something in there that says that you're not able to do. There's usually a lot of guidelines like saying you can't do the same thing. Like if you're doing diabetes work for us, you can't do diabetes work on your own, or maybe there's some guidelines on you can't see patients within this much of a radius of where our practice is, or maybe there's even guidelines on after you leave employment from us, you can't do practice in this area for a certain amount of time. So it really comes down to learning from your facility. What are the policies? Maybe you need to go to HR. And then if you have a contract, reading it. Now, I work for the VA. I actually went through our ethics board before I even started my business, just to make sure all my ducks are in a row. And there was no conflict, no reason I couldn't have a side hustle. There's some guidelines, of course, not doing side hustle work on work time. I think that one's clear, but I always try to make it crystal clear, but that even if you just have downtime on your work, like, oh, it's just, we're not doing anything right now, I'll just work on my side hustle now. It's like, no, we have to draw like very distinct lines between work and side hustle. That also includes not using work equipment. So maybe you have access to a platform on your work computer that you don't have access at home, and you think I'll just come in early or stay late and use that equipment. That's generally a no-no, because that is your business's equipment and you can't use that for something that gives you personal gain. So, maybe they have a great webcam or this platform, or so. Anyways, lots of different considerations, but ultimately it does depend on where you work and the guidelines you have to follow. But for me, I keep them very separate. I don't mention the VA in my website, or I mention on LinkedIn because that is my job, but I don't use it as a way to promote myself or to try to get gigs as like, oh, I'm a VA dietitian, you should hire me. I keep them completely separate. So I think there's a lot of pieces to that, but I hope that provides some guidance on where you might be able to go to find those answers.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie, for that. So another question that Lesli might be able to help with is, wondering if they're just starting their online business, do you recommend purchasing a website platform like Squarespace or starting with a free service like Wix? I think it kind of depends on like what you're looking for to get out of your website, right? I know like Word is a bit more intensive to start with, but you get more later on, versus Wix.
Right.
Other things are a lot easier upfront, but may not be as beneficial later in the future.
Right. I would really tend to agree with that, Sarah. So, I mean, sometimes here's kind of a way to look at it. If you can afford to invest in your business and get a WordPress site, I mean, that would be my recommendation, because, your search engine optimization, like all of those things are going to be better later, right? So, and the other thing to think about is, I mean, if you like, now granted, a lot of dietitians, they're very well versed. They can do a lot of different things, including tech, right? But sometimes I say, well, just because we can, does that mean we should? Right. And I can tell you in no uncertain terms that if I tried to do my own website, yeah, it probably wouldn't work out so well. And I would really probably spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. So yeah, so I think if you can, if you do have the budget, I would probably lean towards going with a WordPress site and, getting someone to help you. But if you're, really on a tight budget, then, by all means, I think Wix can be a great option, especially as you're starting out.
Yeah, for sure. Another question that came through was, do you guys have any suggestions for re-entering the field after they have spent the last 7 years raising children? Social media seems overwhelming.
Well, this is Lesli. I can certainly relate to that. I was in that situation not too terribly long ago. And yeah, so social media has kind of taken on a life of its own over the last several years, right? So at least from my perspective, I would need, if you're trying to build a practice, I don't think you need to jump right into social media as a starting point. I know that might be hard to believe, but I do believe there are other ways that you can build a practice. At least initially, you can get traction without putting a whole bunch of time into social media. So, and the other thing is, if you do decide to dip your toe into social media, I mean, of course, it can definitely help you expand your reach. You really want to think about, where are your clients hanging out? So I would pick one platform to start and really try to streamline your process as much as you possibly can. So, at least from a practice building perspective, I think there are other really great strategies that can get you started and really jumpstart your entire business process. And then, honestly, we can add social media in later. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. Okay, that definitely is helpful. Thank you for that. Okay, another question we had here was, If you already had clients before, but they aren't in your niche target plan, is it okay to remarket your online business knowing you might lose some followers?
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear on that question. So basically, is this someone that changed niches?
I think so, yes. They didn't give many more details for that.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, okay. So as I mentioned in my presentation, niching down is really a marketing strategy. Okay, and it's not a marriage. Okay, so what do I mean by that? It doesn't require exclusivity. All right, you really can, if you want, you really can see clients and patients outside of that specific target segment. The reason we always recommend niching down is because you want to be the expert in your field. You want to be positioned as that go-to person. So it really makes all of your marketing efforts just more poignant, right? So that all being said, in terms of the question, if I'm understanding correctly, if you've decided to pivot your niche, or perhaps you just decided to niche down, I mean, it is possible, like I'm thinking about Instagram, if, it's possible that you might lose some followers. The thing I would say is, we cannot be everything to everyone, right? And that's okay. Like, part of niching down is really to help you to, not only yourself get more clear on who it is you're serving and who it is you really want to work with, but it's okay if, honestly, I think it's okay. I personally would just, try to have the glasses half full mindset. Like, there's enough for everyone. It's okay if, I lose a couple followers here. I'm going to gain lots more in the long run, right? So I do think niching, there's a lot of fears around it, right? But, you'd be pretty hard pressed to pick up any kind of marketing book on the entire planet that doesn't recommend that as a really great strategy. So yeah, so I would say just, you can still serve those people. It doesn't mean you can't still serve them as clients, but if you lose a few followers in the process of niching down, I would just say that's okay. I would just accept that and know that in the long run, it's really, that strategy is going to serve you. You'll gain many, many, many more in the end.
Awesome. Okay, so we have one question here for Katie, or you too, Lesli, as well. But one of the ones that someone asked was they would love suggestions for an ADHD non-perfectionist RD that already does some of these and has a great business, but sees opportunities for more of these, but struggles hiring the help to get it done or organized.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I understood the question. Oh, wait, I see the written question. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I think I understand you. You're saying, like, you want to start a business for ADHD dietitians. Oh, okay. I get your question now. I was a little confused at first, but
Sorry.
no, that's okay. I mean, I think that would be a great idea. I mean, there's lots of different areas that you can really focus on online, but, I agree. I do think that there probably would be quite a lot of dietitians who, were on that same boat who are like, yeah, I need this help. So, I think that's something what I would recommend is even just reaching out and doing some market research to find out, like, put your feelers out online. Like, how many people are interested in this? Is there a space for it? But, I really think sky is the limit and there's lots of different things we could do. But, I really feel like if you have passion behind it, even how you're talking about ADHD RD, even thinking beyond the scope of dietitians, even healthcare providers, because a lot of what we do as dietitians can translate into other healthcare fields. So there could be a potential market in there that can really help healthcare professionals in that space. So.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, we have a few more questions here. Another person was wondering if you have any resources or guidelines to follow to cover yourself from liability for personalized health coaching or private practice. Would meeting with a lawyer be helpful?
Mm.
Leslie might have
Um,
some. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I think I can jump in and address that. And by the way, Sarah, for some reason I cannot turn my camera on. I don't know if that's a setting on your end.
Oh, no? Okay. Yikes.
So I could share a little bit while we're figuring out the technical stuff, but I would say one thing that's really important if you're working with clients is to get liability insurance. I think that's very valuable. There's lots of really affordable packages that you could have just to kind of take that ease off. Now, whether or not you work with a lawyer, that's really up to you. I know when I started my business, now keep in mind, I don't see clients, but when I started my business, I actually chose to meet with a lawyer just because I wanted to have all my ducks in a row, right? So that is something I did. I don't think it's required, but I would say if you are working with clients, absolutely liability insurance.
Okay, awesome. Okay, another question is, sorry, we got quite a few of them actually. How generalized health coaching is different from medical nutrition therapy? Is health coaching strictly focusing on weight management and improving diet quality versus personalized recommendations based on health history?
Okay, Sarah, I can definitely answer that one.
Okay.
Okay, so, and the reason I can answer this is because I personally went through, I have a lot of wellness coach training. So I went through Well Coaches training program. I mean, there's lots of them out there. That was the one I did. I think it was back in 2011. So it was a while ago. And so I went through their basic training and then their really advanced training that was like a whole year long. So, all right. So it actually is very different as compared to what we do as dietitians. And like I will say, when I went through my training, you're looking at the whole person, right? And it may not even have anything to do with weight, right? Or food. Like I had people in my training class, I had a psychiatrist, MD, getting trained as a health coach. I had there were all different kinds of areas of specialization, some that had nothing at all to do with nutrition. So health coaching is very, you're looking at the whole person. The approach is quite different than how we're trained as dietitians. Like philosophically, the approach with health coaching is that the person is the expert, right? The person that you're coaching is the expert in his or her own body. And so there's, I would say, less telling and more asking in health coaching, right? It's really an interesting philosophy. And I'll tell you one thing you're not doing in health coaching. Let's say you're a health coach that, specializes in, some area of nutrition, just hypothetically. And I would say the big difference is that it is not like MNT in that you're not really going down, you're not giving specific nutrition dietary recommendations for the most part. It is higher level education, and it's really, really very centered around the psychology of change. If I were to summarize it, it's psychology of change. That's really the bulk of the work you do as a coach. And I will put a plug for it. I got to tell you, I did my training right around the time I started my private practice, and it really was helpful. It was quite a different way of looking at helping people that I personally found very beneficial in my private practice. I hope that's helpful. It's quite a big topic, in terms of the differences, but at the end of the day, you're not doing MNT, you're not really looking at that person's past medical history in order to prescribe or recommend specific dietary changes.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Leslie. I appreciate that answer. Well, guys, we are at the 2-hour mark, so it is time to wrap up this webinar. But just we wanted to thank you so much again to Leslie and Katie for sharing all of this informative information. Again, if you're interested to see how Nutrium can help optimize your virtual practice, don't forget to use code Nutrium25 for a 14-day free trial and 25% off your first purchase. For those of you who attended live, we will send out an email with this recording as well as the CEU certificate. For those who are listening to the recording, please email Sarah Achleithner at nutrium.io to claim your 2 CEUs. Thanks again to our speakers for their insightful presentations. Have a wonderful day.